take your knives and your guns and your pangas and throw them into the sea.
There's no one on our planet, of the 7 billion of us, who has had more of a positive influence on more people than Nelson Mandela.
It's an important story about a world-shaking event.
The Rugby World Cup final of 1995 was the day when all of Mandela's dreams came true.
These two men brought it together. One event, one day.
I want to thank you for what you have done for our country.
No, Mr. President, thank you for what you have done for our country.
I think Mandela was the ultimate instinctive politician. The way he went about it, the imagination he used to incorporate a sports team that didn't have much chance of winning, it showed a great creativity on his part.
I was chief of the London Independent here in South Africa between 1989 and 1995, which was the period of great transition and drama with Mandela in centre stage in South Africa's history. And so I wrote a book about Mandela, with the climax of the book being the Rugby World Cup final of 1995.
Many people in America had never heard about the story, and we thought it was a really great way to get a sense of the soul and character of Madiba.
I thought it was very exciting and a way to tell the Mandela story around a great sporting event, much like Chariots of Fire.
I'm particularly thrilled because the reason I did this book was that I really felt that this story contained, a tremendously valuable, exemplary lesson for the ages, and I thought it should be kept, preserved for posterity in a book, but never imagining, of course, that it would be made into a film. And what's so wonderful about it being made into a film is that the message will reach so infinitely more people, and that pleases me immensely.
No. Happy to see you. I'm happy to see you.
When I first met Mr. Mandela, I saw a striking resemblance between Madiba and Morgan and thought, wow, this would be a really great thing. And then later on, Morgan told me that Madiba had said to him, I would really love you to portray me in a film.
He's been very welcoming, very, oh, that's Morgan, have him come over.
And he can also see how much Morgan looks like him. He's always so happy when he sees Morgan, and his face lights up completely. Oh, Morgan!
Very good, very good. Oh, very good.
Thank you.
The young lady has come in between us, so we are friends.
Thank you so much.
Morgan and I thought the best thing to do was to go in person and ask Madiba's blessing to tell this story.
So I went to his house for tea one day.
We woke you up.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
All right. I still recognize you.
How you do?
You look more and more like Madiba.
More and more.
And we sat there now, the strangest thing about meeting Madiba or anybody like Madiba is, okay, you're here in the presence of greatness. What do you say? So how about those Yankees? Where you gonna go after that? Sit and hope he has something to say to you. And of course, Madiba does. What I did tell him, however, was that I was honored that he had mentioned me to play him.
Morgan started off by saying, Madiba, we've just read something that we think might get to the core of who you are. And before he even finished the sentence, Madiba said, the World Cup.
Oh, this is good. He has always been like that. He has always been like that.
It was quite a fantastic experience to look him in the eye. Morgan and I both look him in the eye and know that he was okay with us moving on to this project.
We had worked with a South African writer, Tony Peckham.
Once I got over my fear of writing about a hero of mine and a man like Mandela, and it took me a while to get over that fear, then the script happened fairly fast.
So now we've got this great script. And Laura and I caucus over the director who we're going to get. So we can't get anybody but Clint Eastwood.
Choir. I just liked the way the script was written, and all the material was natural, I thought, for a movie, but also a chance to show an example of how a very charismatic person can affect a whole country by using his creative powers.
215, take one.
I come here with a message.
People used to say, how do you feel about playing Mandela? I mean, are you concerned? Are you worried? And I would say a little bit. I have to get the voice. I have to get the rhythm. I have to get the accent. So that was my worry.
Morgan has the same stature and same sort of charismatic nature. So it works well for us.
It's the way he walks, I think, that makes me to go, oh, by the way, that's Morgan. So I think he has mastered his walk so much that without even thinking anything, you're just like, that's the man.
I live the life every day of seeing Mr. Mandela. It is really the closest ever. They look alike, they sound alike now, they walk alike. And I actually had to tell him the other day, no, stop speaking like Madiba because, you know, it's scary.
It's good that Morgan came here because otherwise I would not have seen you.
You know, if you have the right person for the role, you know, as Morgan is clearly the right person to play Mandela, you know, you don't have to chatter too much. You know, you just kind of let it. There's an ease with which everything happens if everyone's in the job that they should be in.
As you get going, I think you can kind of just keep breathing, everybody. You're all tired. Whip dogs. You're all whip dogs.
To the taste of defeat. Drink it. Remember this. And promise yourself never to taste it again.
I'd never thought I was writing a role for Matt Damon when I was writing Francois Pienaar. But it was brilliant, and it's because they both radiate that same kind of generosity and bigness.
It was such a great script, and I just said, I really, you know, it's a supporting role, but I'd love to be in this movie and tell this story because I think it's about the best of humanity and what we can be.
There's a soul to Francois that makes me understand why Madiba would have chosen him to be his partner in this '95 World Cup event. And Matt has embodied that in a way that I don't think I really comprehended when we first cast him in the role.
When I read the script, I immediately went online and looked up Francois, and I saw him and I said, well, this guy looks pretty big. And then I started reading about him. So when I spoke to Clint eventually, I said, you know, this guy's huge. I don't, you know. And he said, oh no, hell. He said, worry about everything else. I'll worry about that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm worrying about everything else.
I must say, when I then heard that Matt Damon is playing Francois, it's very exciting. I've always been a huge fan, so it was a thrill.
And I spent some time with his voice coach. Because the Afrikaans accent, to get that right, and the E's and the R's and the Wenuis.
Whoever's there, James, just. Whoever's there, James, just grab the fucking gun. Hold on to it. I'll go you.
I remember when Francois Pienaar and Matt Damon first met.
They invited me over, and he cooked this incredible gourmet meal.
I opened the door to welcome him. I was actually wearing an apron because I was cooking.
And I just looked up at him, and there's kind of a pregnant pause, and I said, I look much bigger on camera.
So that was a very nice icebreaker for everyone. And I left probably around 11:30 that night, and I think they were there, you know, at 3:30 or 4 in the morning bonding.
We chatted a lot about the game and what happens in the changing rooms and a bit about the technical stuff and what my philosophy would be as a captain, which changed. You know, for me, the most important thing on the field was not how well I played. it was how well the team played.
Guys, hell of a day today. It was great.
Good job! Good job! Fortunately for me, it wasn't my job to cast the 6 teams and train them. Amy McDaniel did an amazing job.
We picked the top 20 club teams around this area and would hand out flyers for an open tryout. And all these rugby players came in. We tried them out, did drills with Chester and everybody, and we finally were able to get a very cohesive group and a very high level of players that were able to come together.
We'll have a ruck. Number 8 will take the ball in. Everyone will clean away in.
Right, it's kind of this one, right?
Yes, France will stay out.
Shoot it here.
They miss France.
I mean, all these guys are rugby players, if not professional. They played competitive club rugby for years.
The more complicated thing was to find the right look within the right position. Obviously, with hair and makeup, they do a great job to make them look as close as possible. Oddly enough, all the rugby clubs that I've since now learned all have bars. So we would take them up and we would show them video footage of the game. So if it was France versus Springboks, we would show them the portions of the scripted action. Then we take them out for about 2.5 hours on the field and choreograph those exact plays.
But I actually went in about 1.5 hours to 2 hours early every day to work on the drop kick.
Scott is playing Joel Stransky. They happen to be about the exact same size, and similar look, similar build.
Yeah, he was a he was a skinny guy. I mean, you see these guys out here playing; they're massive and giant thighs, and just big boys. And he was kind of the skinnier, real agile, quick one.
And it is kind of fantastic that all of the points for South Africa, the South African rugby team on that day, including obviously the winning points, should have been scored by Joel Stransky, this tremendously talented, relatively speaking quite small guy, who's the hero of the day.
Scott Eastwood had the most difficult job.
He's been doing well. We taught him how to drop goal, to place kick.
The ball has to land perfectly. Every time we get on camera and I'm going to do a drop kick, oh no, this is going to be expensive if I mess this one up.
Lomo can run past the scrum and gets tackled by the Jewish and the best. It's exactly what happened in the final.
Chester Williams, who was a member of the team in '95, became our coach.
What we'll do now is that, guys, we'll have a scrum there, and what I suggest we do, we'll have the scrum there, and that's how. But Chester must still score, obviously. So what we'll do.
It's always helpful to have the real people available to you when you're making a movie.
We did the highlights of all the playoff games, and he was very concerned with accuracy.
What will happen is a scrum, ball carrier, and a ruck, another ruck, and then the ball goes to Chester and Andrew Bay, and he scores a try. And the Chester scores a try.
So we'll just do that?
Yep. Okay. Okay.
His instruction to me was this, Chester, I'm here to make a movie, but you're the rugby expert. You're going to tell me what you think would be good for rugby.
The Springboks will play that side, then the All Blacks will get the ball, and then they bring Lomo with a cutback.
Even on that play there, that looked great.
We got the camera just about every angle you can get, because in rugby, the people are getting it just about every angle you can get.
We're going to scrum on the platform?
Yes, sir. Lean back, guys. There you go. Good. Ready. 3, 2, 1, set.
Engage.
3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Try it again. Do it again. Roll the ball again. Right down the middle. Great. Perfect. Good. Okay, we got that.
Okay, stop. Put that out. Okay. Up.
Who else? We're doing a scrum on the platform, so like my props and locks I need over there.
Just top 5.
Yep. Anybody else? We call it Hollywood for a reason. I said, I know you wouldn't be here. I know you would be here, but I need you here because the camera can't see that far. And once they figured that out, it was great. So I think Clint said he caught some good stuff because he would get in that action and just let them play.
Whoa.
It was funny because my players were playing with something that had a hole in it, and I was like, I don't think you're supposed to be doing that. And next thing I know, Clint is like running after them going, continue, continue. And apparently they had put a small kind of DV camera in there, and they throw it in the action a couple times.
In Flags of Our Fathers, I put a camera into ammunition cans and cut holes in the ammunition cans and then gave them to extras and said, just carry these and start running, through the explosions and everything going on. But here I got the idea, it seemed like a bright idea at the time, was to put a digital camera inside a rugby ball, which is a little larger than a football. So we worked it out, and it did work, actually, it worked, but the trouble is everything is so fast. You spin the ball and throw it, it's just a blur.
One time we were trying to do a simulate a kick overward. One of my players threw it up, and the camera went that way, and the ball went that way.
There may be a shot or two in there, but not many, because everything's moving so fast anyway. We had to move in general at high speed, so this was at warp speed.
Semi-final was down in Durban, and torrential rain and floods. The game nearly didn't take place.
I've never seen weather like that over the course of the weekend. It's just as if the clouds opened up and the rain bucketed down.
We'd practiced all these plays on our dry, kind of sunny playing field, but suddenly it was night and the rain machines were going, and it was just a mess. You couldn't see anybody's number. You could barely see who, what team they were on. We were so covered in mud.
I don't think there's any amount of training that can compare us for the wet French game.
We did it all very fast. They've had the one uniform, and they lived with it through the game. You can't sit there when it's freezing cold and ice water being poured on top of these guys and sit there and say, well, maybe I should go left. Maybe you can't do that.
Thankfully, that sequence we shot as more of a montage. Had there been continuity, it would have been a difficult task to stage everything clean and move it progressively into muddiness, but we started out with it muddy and told the guys just jump in there and get muddy.
They put the rain machines on and they created puddles everywhere.
Everybody wanted to take a slide in the field. Myself, I did not indulge in that. I might have 25 years ago, or 2 beers later, depending on which comes first.
After we'd gotten a number of shots completed, we asked Matt to join the group, and Matt came out and he was in his sparkling white shorts.
So it was, Matt, you either need to jump in or we're going to throw you in. Either way you want to do it, but you're getting dirty one way or another.
Anybody got any water?
No. Matt, just gonna lie down and just get your back. Back to you.
And he really went for it, and I think he got the dirtiest of all of them. He had just mud everywhere.
Yeah, I was talking to Joel Stransky about it. He said that, the ball would get kicked and it would hit the ground and it wouldn't move. It would just land and stop because the field was so wet.
It was a real challenge to take on something historical like this that is so well known by the South African people.
I also think it's really important historically to be at the places that these events took place. For instance, the Union Building, which we were able to shoot at, and I'm told has never been open for a film shoot set before this.
It's a marvelous building, the Capitol in Pretoria, and we wanted the authenticity of that. This happened in 1995, which isn't that long ago. We had all kinds of pictures and discussions with various team players of that day.
Because it's a historical event, and we did look at a lot of research. We had to get rid of all the modern.
You start noticing that we really didn't have
many of these items just 15 years ago. Flat screen TVs didn't exist yet. Obviously small cell phones. Sunglasses have to be different. Everything you could possibly think of has changed.
In 1995, the shorts in itself were very, very short. The jerseys were cut fuller, they were boxier, and the fabrics that they used at that particular time were cotton. This is the jersey that Matt Damon wore in the final game. This writing in particular was just added for the last game. And during the World Cup, it had the Springbok logo and it had the World Cup patch without that writing.
45, take 2.
And marker.
I wouldn't have done it any place else but South Africa. You need South Africa, you need the people, you need the faces. We use South African actors for the most part. And the townships and the various things that you see there, you have to be there. You can't fake that. We did have a rugby field, and a bunch of baboons were out there in the morning, so you had to wait till the baboons got out of there before the people got out. But as soon as the players get out there, the baboons exit.
We were out setting up and they were running around through the rugby pads. It was kind of an interesting way to start the day.
But they stand on the sidelines or up in the trees and they look at you and wonder what kind of crazy people are these.
We had to cheat some locations that were in Johannesburg or some other areas in the country.
First, when they told me they're shooting his house in Cape Town, because his house is in Johannesburg, I was a bit skeptical about it. And then I walked into this living room. I really had to check myself and make sure that I didn't think I was in Johannesburg where I was in Cape Town. They recreated it perfectly.
It was a great location. Everybody in the street was involved. So we must have had about 200 to 300 of the residents. Watching all of this, you could have heard a penny drop. It was so quiet. You know. Makes it a lot easier than sort of having a closed set and no one can see what's going on. And so, you know, hats off to Clint's team for letting that happen.
Being there in South Africa for the cast, for the crew, for everybody.
Here we go.
It just drove home how significant the story was, because you were constantly reminded of what an effect it had on the people there.
I think it was interesting to be on Robben Island for many reasons. We were all moved in a different way, and mostly to silence.
We actually were concerned that the cell was too small to shoot in, so we built one on stage. And Clint got in there with the camera and he said, no, this will work. And he wanted to do it where it really happened, so we shot it all right there and never used the set that we built. It's moving to be in that tiny cell and think about having to spend so many years of your life in such a small space. It's profound. There's just no other way to describe it.
Part of his greatness, I think, comes from the fact that he was forced to sit still for 27 years.
And I was in his presence when he said, 27 years in prison gives you a lot of time to think. So he didn't think about revenge. He thought about how to create national salvation.
He was basically saying goodbye to a personal life.
I think if he could, he would have taken every single person in South Africa under his roof. In effect, he did, and made them his family.
And he understood that he was now putting the abstract national family ahead of the immediate flesh and blood.
I think that's almost the saddest of all of this, is that he missed out on his children growing up and being there for them and them being there for him.
It's difficult. This is something that Morgan Freeman observed to me actually some time ago when we were talking about Mandela. how in Mandela, you know, the private man and the political man fuse into one. And actually, Mandela, the private man, is an enigma, and he's sort of become Nelson Mandela, the public figure.
Now he's 90 years old, and he says, okay, I've done it. I'm just going to sit down now and listen.
I've always maintained that if Hollywood had the opportunity to write a script about what happened in this country in 1995, they could not have written a better script.
The story, the combination of Mandela and that event holds a lesson for the ages of value to not just to political figures, but to ordinary people everywhere.
This lent inspiration to the country when it was badly needed. And now whether that sustains through history, we'll have to only see. We only had one Mandela.
We learned from Mandela that there's nothing better than to forgive. You cannot forget, but to forgive and move on.
As to respect people, you know, no matter who they are, also to smile.
The lessons in life that he teaches us, if you apply those things positively in your life, just the way you interact with people, the way you approach a person without prejudice, if you just apply that, it is an unspeakable change in your own life.
He has instincts that are pure, and it just knows how to manipulate people to the good, for the good.
I think it's a good time for it, given everything that's happening in the world. I mean, it's a good time to retell this and remind all of us that this happened.
We were fortunate, you know, to have somebody like Madiba who could unify the country, and also to lay foundation, you know, for future generations.
I think the point about Mandela is that he's just such a completely evolved human being. I actually think that he's just sort of 1,000 years ahead of his time.
I'm pleased to have this moment, this opportunity to have a connection to him even.
I think this is a really good use of our time because it's a story about the best of what human beings can be, and a reminder that we're all in this together.
Mbayo.